"You're a complete failure. You're just like your mother," my father yelled, and my stepmother added, "Exactly." So I walked out. A month later, my inbox was flooded with 112 messages from him. If someone had told me 2 years ago that my dad would turn into my biggest adversary, I would have dismissed it as a joke. My father was always strict, but I believed he was a dependable man. I never doubted his choices, even when he was harsh. I used to think he cared about me in his own way, even if he never said it out loud. But then, everything fell apart. My parents argued constantly, yet nothing could have prepared me for the day my father forced my mom out of her own home. That day is etched in my memory like a bad dream I can't escape. One moment, she was cooking in the kitchen, and the next, she was on the porch with just a suitcase, tears rolling down her face as my father slammed the door shut. I stood there, stunned, unable to comprehend what had just happened. This was our home. My mother had purchased it long before she even met my father. But he didn't care. He called her worthless, a disappointment, someone who didn't deserve anything. And within weeks, his new wife moved in. I didn't need confirmation. It was obvious he'd been unfaithful. Now she was here, living in my house, bringing along her 3 kids from past relationships. My mother was gone, erased as if she'd never existed. I stayed because I had no other choice. My school was here. My life was here. My mother had to relocate to another town to live with my grandmother. She offered to take me with her, but I refused. I told myself I could endure my father and his new family for a few more years. I planned to stay quiet, focus on my studies, and leave when I turned 18. I had no idea how much worse it would get. My stepmother was just like my father, selfish, cunning, and cruel. She made me feel like an intruder in my own home. Her children followed her lead, ensuring I knew I didn't belong. My father allowed it. Worse, he encouraged it. For over a year, I bit my tongue. I ignored the taunts, the insults, the way they treated me like an outsider. I convinced myself it didn't matter. But on my 17th birthday, everything shattered. I invited my mother to my celebration. She hesitated at first, but I pleaded with her to come. I needed her there. When she finally walked in, I felt a fleeting moment of joy, until my father exploded. The second he saw her, his face twisted in fury. He charged at us, his voice shaking the walls. "You're a complete failure, just like your mother." Something inside me broke. Before I could react, my stepmother crossed her arms and smirked. "Absolutely." I looked at my mother. Her eyes were filled with hurt, but she stayed silent. She simply nodded at me. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just went to my room, grabbed a bag, and started packing. As I headed for the door, my stepmother sneered. "Fine. You were never really part of this family anyway." I didn't even glance at her. I took the first bus to my grandmother's place. It was late when I arrived, and she gasped when she saw me at her doorstep with nothing but my backpack. My mother was in the kitchen, still wearing the dress she'd worn to my party. She turned to me, her face lighting up for a split second before she noticed my bag. "I'm not going back," I said. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, everything became clear. My father had stolen everything from my mother, her home, her dignity, her peace. And now, he'd taken me for granted. He thought he could discard us like we meant nothing. He was wrong. I turned to my mother. "We need a lawyer." She hesitated, but my grandmother, sitting beside her, didn't. "He's right," she said. "It's time." We began preparing. It took weeks, but we were ready. When I finally sent the message, I felt a surge of strength I hadn't felt in years. "We're taking legal action. You'll hear from our lawyer soon." I set my phone down and exhaled. Then the notifications started. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I picked up my phone. The screen was filled with alerts, 112 messages, all from my father. At first, I just stared, numb. Then I scrolled. The first few messages were predictable. "You ungrateful brat! After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? You think you can run off and side with that failure of a mother?" I kept scrolling. The messages grew angrier. "You're making a huge mistake. You don't know what you're doing. You'll regret this." Then suddenly his tone shifted. "Let's talk, son. You don't have to do this. Come home. We can work it out." I scoffed. Classic. First rage, then manipulation. I didn't reply. Then the threats began. "You have no idea what you're getting into. Do you really think you can win? You're a foolish kid, and your mom's even dumber." I locked my phone and set it aside. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from anger. He still thought he could scare me, like I was some child seeking his approval. I walked into the kitchen, where my mother and grandmother sat. I placed my phone on the table. "He knows," I said. My grandmother picked it up, read the messages silently, and handed it to my mom, who frowned but wasn't surprised. "He's desperate," my grandmother said. I nodded. Good. Then my phone rang. I didn't need to look to know who it was. My father's name flashed on the screen, and the room fell silent. My mother exhaled. My grandmother crossed her arms. I let it ring. Then my grandmother's phone buzzed. She answered. What do you want? I could hear his voice even from across the table. Tell that ungrateful boy he has 24 hours to fix this, or I swear you'll all regret it. My grandmother rolled her eyes. Regret what? You think you can take my house? You think a lawsuit will work? I own this place now, and if he thinks he can crawl back when he realizes his mistake, tell him there will be no home to return to. I snatched the phone from her. I don't want your house, I said. I want you out of it. Silence. Then my father laughed. You're a fool, he said. This will ruin you. Then he hung up. I set the phone down. My mother looked at me. Are you sure about this? Yes, I said. I was done staying silent. 2 days later, my stepmother texted me. You think you're clever? You're just like your mother, a pathetic, bitter loser. I rolled my eyes and ignored her. Then my stepbrother joined in. You really think you can kick us out? You're dumber than we thought. Hope you enjoy living with your broke mom. We'll wreck the place before we leave. Just wait. I didn't respond, but that last message made me pause. We're going to wreck the house before we leave. I showed my mom. Her face paled. My grandmother clenched her jaw. They wouldn't do that, my mom said. But I knew them. I knew exactly what they were capable of. They will, I said, and I wasn't going to let them. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured my stepmother and her kids destroying the house, smashing walls, breaking windows, ruining everything out of spite, because they knew they'd lost. By morning, I'd made up my mind. We need to move faster, I said. My grandmother nodded. I'll call the lawyer. By noon, everything was in motion. Our lawyer pushed for an emergency hearing. My mother gathered every document proving the house was hers. And me? I was preparing to return before they could do more damage. My mother tried to stop me. It's not safe. I won't go alone, I said. I'll just check things out and call the police if needed. I took the bus back. The moment I stepped into my old neighborhood, it felt like enemy territory. And I was right. When I reached the house, my father's car was gone, but my stepmother's SUV was parked outside. The front door was locked, and my old key didn't work. They'd changed the locks. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Then I heard movement inside. The curtain twitched, and one of my stepbrothers peeked out, grinned, and flipped me off. That was all I needed. I pulled out my phone and called the police. I'm a legal resident, but they've locked me out. I need an officer here now. 15 minutes later, a patrol car arrived. The officer knocked, and this time, my stepmother answered, feigning innocence. Oh, officer, there must be some mistake. The cop cut her off. This young man says he lives here. Do you have proof he's been evicted? She hesitated. That was enough. Ma'am, unless you have a legal eviction notice, you can't lock out a resident. I crossed my arms. Either let me in or we'll settle this in court. Her smile faded. She called for one of her sons to bring the key. A moment later, the door unlocked, and I stepped inside. And that's when I saw the damage. They'd already started. Trash bags littered the hallway. A hole was punched in the living room wall. The TV lay shattered on the floor. I turned to my stepmother. What the hell did you do? She shrugged. It's our house. We can do what we want. The officer wasn't having it. Ma'am, property destruction is a crime. She paled, then forced a smile. Oh, that? Just an accident. I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Really? What about the rest? I stormed into the kitchen. Cabinets were torn off. The fridge door hung open. Food spilled everywhere. Countertops were scratched up like someone had taken a knife to them. I ran upstairs. My old room was destroyed. My mattress was flipped. My desk broken in half. Worst of all, the window. Shattered. Glass covered the floor, and the wind blew through the empty frame. They'd wanted to ruin everything. I turned to the officer. I'm pressing charges. My stepmother gasped. You little... The cop stepped between us. Ma'am, I suggest you call your husband. You're in serious trouble. I took more photos, sent them to my lawyer, then called my mother. They've started destroying the house, but they won't get away with it. I hung up and glared at my stepmother. Get out! Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, she wasn't in control, and it was only going to get worse. She looked at me like she wanted to kill me, but she knew she'd lost. The cop was there. I was recording, and I had all the evidence I needed. Then, right on cue, my father's car pulled in. I stepped onto the porch as he got out. The moment he saw the officer, his face darkened. His eyes darted to me, then to my stepmother behind me. What's going on? He barked. The officer turned to him. Sir, your wife and children have caused significant property damage. We have evidence, and your son wants to press charges. My father's face twisted. He turned to me. You're doing this to your own family? I almost laughed. My family? These people aren't my family. My family is waiting for me at my grandmother's house. This isn't your house, I said. It never was. And now you're going to pay for what you've done. My father stepped toward me, but the officer cleared his throat. Sir, I suggest you calm down. For the first time in my life, my father looked uncertain. That flicker of doubt in his eyes. Priceless. Then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, and I watched his face fall. He read the message, then clenched his jaw. What? My stepmother asked, stepping forward. What happened? He ignored her, glaring at me instead. Do you have a lawyer? I smiled. Not just a lawyer, the lawyer. Our lawyer had just sent him the official notice. My mother was filing for an emergency order to remove him and his family immediately, and with the damage they'd done, she had more than enough proof to expedite it. My father's grip on his phone tightened. His knuckles turned white. He knew. He'd lost. You little... He stepped toward me again, but I didn't flinch. Then my stepmother, still clueless, grabbed his arm. What? What is it? He shoved the phone in her face. She read it, and then, right in front of the cop, she lost it. She turned on him. I told you this would happen. I told you we had to deal with this little... She caught herself, then glared at me. You think you've won? I didn't answer. I just smiled. Her face turned red. She whirled back to my father. Fix this! He ran a hand through his hair, muttering. It's not that simple. The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. She'd been comfortable, thinking this house was hers. The thought of losing it, of losing the life she'd stolen, was too much. Where will we go? She hissed. Not we, I said. They. That was the first crack. Then, as if on cue, my stepbrothers came downstairs, clueless. The oldest, Matt, smirked at me. Hey, loser, when are you leaving so we can... Then he saw the cop. Then he saw his mother's face. Then he saw my father, looking like his world had collapsed. What's going on? No one answered. So I did. You're all being kicked out. Silence. Matt's face went blank. Then he turned to his mother. Mom? Still no answer. Then in a move that stunned everyone, my father pinched the bridge of his nose and said, Lisa, I can't do this anymore. Just Lisa, not babe, not honey. The second crack became a break. My stepmother's mouth opened, then closed. What does that mean? My father turned to me. Let's talk about this. Now I laughed. Talk? You didn't want to talk when you threw Mom out. You didn't want to talk when you let them treat me like trash. You sure didn't want to talk when you called me a failure at my own birthday party. His face twisted. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. And I don't care. Get out of my mother's house. My stepmother turned on my father, furious. This is your fault. You should have handled this. He didn't even look at her. He was still staring at me. And then I saw it, the wheels turning. He wasn't thinking about them anymore. He was thinking about himself. I'd backed him into a corner. And when push came to shove, I knew exactly who he was. Selfish. And he was about to prove it. I watched as the last pieces of his life crumbled. My stepmother screamed, red with rage. My stepbrothers looked lost, realizing for the first time that they weren't winning. The cop stood silently, waiting. And my father? He only looked at me. Not at his wife, not at the kids he'd brought into our home, just me. And then he did exactly what I expected. You know, he said, sighing like this was hard for him. I never wanted this. I almost laughed. You made it happen. He shook his head, as if this was all a misunderstanding, but I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't thinking about fixing things with his wife. He wasn't thinking about his family. He was thinking about himself. And then, just as I knew he would, he turned to Lisa. Lisa, he said carefully, I think we need some time apart. For a second, she didn't react. Then it hit her. What? I just need to figure things out, he said. This is happening too fast and I need to focus on my son right now. Her mouth fell open. Then her face twisted. You coward. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She'd spent years supporting him, tearing my mother down, making my life hell. She'd stood by him when he threw my mom out. She'd loved being queen of this house until now, until it no longer served her. Lisa turned to me, venom in her eyes. You did this. I tilted my head. I thought I wasn't part of your family. Her jaw clenched. She turned back to my father, and before he could react, she slapped him, hard. The sound echoed. Even the cop raised an eyebrow. You worthless piece of trash, she spat. You're throwing me out? After everything? He didn't answer. Because she was right. She'd helped him destroy my mother's life, thinking he'd always have her back. But now that everything was falling apart, he was ditching her, just like he'd ditched my mom, just like he'd abandoned me. Lisa stepped back, shaking. She turned to her sons. "We're leaving." My father shifted. "Lisa, don't be like this." "Go to hell!" she snapped. She stormed past him, yelling at her kids to pack. My stepbrothers hesitated, looking between me, my father, and their mother. Then they realized their cushy life was over and ran upstairs. I turned to my dad and shook my head. "Wow, you really did it. You threw them away too." For the first time, he looked tired. Not angry, just tired. "I just want things to be good again," he muttered. I almost laughed. You wanted things to be easy. You didn't care who you hurt as long as you got what you wanted." His hands clenched. "Let's talk about this." "Talk about what?" I said. "You didn't want to talk when you kicked Mom out. You didn't want to talk when you let them treat me like garbage. You didn't want to talk when you called me a failure at my own party." His face twisted. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said, "and I don't care." Silence. For the first time in my life, my father had nothing to say. Finally, he exhaled sharply. "Look, can I stay with you and your mom for a while, just until I figure things out?" I actually laughed. "You're joking!" His face hardened. "I'm still your father." "No," I said, shaking my head. "You stopped being my father the day you chose her over us." His mouth opened, then closed. He had nothing. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to his contact, and blocked him. Then I turned, walked down the steps, and didn't look back. A week later, my mother and I moved back in. The house was a wreck, but it was ours again. We spent days repairing the damage, painting over the scars, replacing broken windows, making it a home again. And my father? He had nowhere to go. Lisa wouldn't take him back. His so-called friends vanished the moment he had nothing to offer. No fancy house, no cushy life, no fake family. And me? I never spoke to him again. For the first time in years, I felt free. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.